Before I even got the chance to eat, I was excited. Then when it all came together, the smell was incredible. Then when I finally tasted it, I was in love. But something just didn't taste right. Something just didn't feel right that entire time whenever I was sitting there enjoying my family. Knowing that someone like myself, an African-American teenage male, wasn't able to share the exact same sentiment. It didn't feel right knowing that Mike Brown had laid dead in the streets and the man who had killed him had not went to trial and had his day in court to see if he deserved to be considered guilty or not guilty. We see that the Ferguson incident that has occurred within the United States has presented an opportunity for us to be able to take a look at what needs to be done whenever it comes to police militarization. But the grand jury decision ultimately decided that we should just let it fly by. So today, I'm going to present to you the problems, causes, and solutions that the Ferguson incident represents in our society. But before I move on to those, we have to look at the three events that make up the Ferguson incident and acknowledge their symbolism. The first being the shooting and killing of Michael Brown on August 9th of 2014 by Officer Darren Wilson. What this represents is the fact that police militarization and police brutality is a major issue that needs to be addressed in the United States, especially since it is occurring in disproportionate numbers amongst African-American teen males. What the grand jury decision on November 24th of 2014 decided in the United States is that our justice system ultimately does not care about dealing with race-based violence in America. And finally, the riots that soon followed symbolize the fact that America is tired of what is happening with police militarization. But at the end of the day, we are expressing it in the wrong ways. The Ferguson incident as a whole represents what the United States is going through in dealing with police militarization, and therefore requires immediate solutions if we are going to solve it anytime soon. So first, let's move on to our problems, which present themselves in two ways. The first being police militarization, and the second being social and racial discourses. First, police militarization. Many people have often made the statement that it seems as if our police force is constantly abusing its own power, but it seems as though this is an understatement. We must compare the United States to one of its allies, Britain. In 2012, Britain's police officers killed a whopping 0 people. During the exact same year, the United States police force seemed that it was justifiable to kill 410 Americans. Just so that you can understand how many people that is. Ever since 9/11, the United States police force have killed 9,000 Americans. Just to give a point of reference, during the entire Iraq War, we only saw 4,000 troops lost. We can see that the United States is facing a major issue concerning police seeming it justifiable to kill its own citizens without having them be able to appreciate their own day in court. This, however, is made worse by our second problem, the fact that as a society, we are polarizing ourselves on issues. With similar situations like the Ferguson incident being placed solely in the racial issue, we are seeing people considering it, if people believe that it was a racial issue, then police militarization needs to be fixed. If you don't, then police militarization is fine. We are seeing this separation causing major issues to not be resolved, and therefore the Ferguson incident may not even see a solution anytime soon, and police militarization to go along with it. The causes present themselves in three ways. These are the polarization of issues, the demonizing of criminals, and finally, a lack of knowledge in order to present a proper argument. First, let's look at polarization. Many of us have acknowledged that it seems as if our United States government is too busy in conflict in order to be able to present any type of successful legislation or benefit to the American people. But what's funny about this is, in this one circumstance, it seems as if our government is adequately representing us. We are so busy fighting about what needs to be done and attempting to be able to promote our own understanding and statements that we're not willing to come together in order to provide the solutions necessary. Ladies and gentlemen, it takes a strong man to fight for what he wants, but an even stronger man to compromise to be able to provide a simple solution for a complex problem. Compromise is a word that we don't hear too often. As a matter of fact, whenever I was writing this speech, I was struggling to even think of the word compromise because we hear it so little. If compromise were to occur, if those who believe that Mike Brown deserved justice and those who believe that he did not were to come together and understand police militarization a little bit better, then I think we would have a solution a lot faster than we think we would. Next, we must look at the fact that the demonizing of criminals has resulted in us not being able to adequately serve justice in the United States. I'm pretty sure you've all seen the news. People demonizing Mike Brown as if to make it seem like he deserved to die in that moment just because of his actions prior to. I'll be the first to admit, Mike Brown robbed that store. Did he deserve to go to trial? Absolutely, and possibly even to jail. And the violent acts that he may or may not have committed against Officer Wilson did deserve punishment, but the punishment he received that day did not fit the crime, ladies and gentlemen. Our Sixth Amendment provides to us a quick and speedy trial, but the only trial that Mike Brown got was in the middle of a street. Ladies and gentlemen, by continuously demonizing these criminals and making it seem as if they are not fit to life after crime, this allows Mike Brown's death to be considered justifiable. We must consider the lives of criminals to be the lives of people as well, if we wish to stop this from occurring. Third and finally, we must look at the lack of proper knowledge. Gilbert Collar was a Caucasian college freshman who was killed by an African-American police officer. Collar was unarmed, and the statement that the police officer made was that because he was on drugs, he in turn deserved to die. However, I can guarantee that a majority of you have not heard of this case, and because of this, it is currently being used to conflict the statement that Mike Brown deserves justice. Together, the statement for Gilbert Collar's death and Mike Brown's death could provide a proper argument against police militarization. But because people aren't understanding the argument as a whole, then we can't provide a proper argument in order to suggest that something needs to be done. The solutions to this problem present themselves in two ways: understanding and involvement. Like I previously stated, many of us had not heard of the Gilbert Collar incident. And the night that I heard of it and I saw the statement on Facebook, I'll admit that I was wrong. As I was researching it, I went into it with the mentality that it was not the same, that it couldn't be the same, that people were only promoting this idea just in order to prevent Mike Brown from getting justice. As we continuously go against the idea that this is happening against all races, not necessarily on just a racial basis, then we are destroying our validity of an argument. I'm going to drop a truth bomb on you guys. Racism, at the end of the day, cannot be destroyed because racism is an idea. However, discrimination is the hands in which racism begins to act. Racism is the person holding it, and discrimination is the gun itself. We can see that if we were to solve police militarization, then this idea of police brutality against a specific culture will definitely decline, as we are seeing police militarization decline as well. This isn't just a battle of the races. This is a battle against authority and citizens, and the idea that citizens should be able to trust the people who are supposed to do justice. However, my second solution comes in the form of involvement. Like many of you, I've watched the riots on television and on the internet and said to myself, I can't believe that this is occurring, and shaking my head at those who are persisting the action that I don't want to represent me. I'll admit, I've made some statements on Facebook like many of you, and that is the most that most of us will ever do. But at the end of the day, the person who is making the loudest statement for what you believe should be justice is stealing chips in Grey Goose. If you honestly believe that Mike Brown deserves justice and that we need to fix police militarization, then get up and do something. Get involved in politics. Vote. Stage more peaceful protests, whatever it takes, ladies and gentlemen. But at the end of the day, just arguing with one of your friends on Facebook isn't bringing justice. It's only promoting argument. So if you honestly think that justice needs to be done, and you're tired of letting these rioters speak for you in the name of violence and destruction, if you want to promote peace, ladies and gentlemen, then it's time to get up and do something.